The logistics of that.
Yeah, you know, who does that? What kind of background checks? You know, what about your own private rights, your own private information?
And this kid had apparently no criminal background, no record. So how do you tell? Anyone can snap. You've seen this happen, right?
Sure, and that's the problem with this, is the amount of impact that this is going to have, and in essence, an isolated case. You know, but unfortunately, we're starting to see these isolated cases occurring. You know,
is it isolated, Sal? We've had how many shootings, mass shootings this year? You know, in malls and temples and theaters.
We're seeing those kind of shootings. You're absolutely right, but. You know, how do you identify these people ahead of time? And you're right, all of the issues that you bring up about privacy rights and, you know, and those type of issues that come up. You know, should we be monitoring websites for chatter? We get a lot of pushback from monitoring websites for, you know, terrorist organizations trying to do that domestically. We may see at the end of this that this child may have had some postings on Facebook or may have said something that may have been an indication to it.
And should have his friends have seen it too?
Should somebody have seen it? Should somebody say it?
You know, it's never bad when we analyze what the security measures are, and from what you're saying, it sounds like some places are going to do that now. So.
And I think that's the appropriate approach we need to do.
All right, Sal LaFreri, we appreciate you. We'd ask you to stay around for a little bit in case we.
More than happy to.
Okay,
sure.
Thanks, Sal.
Thank you. Well, now we want to go to N.J. Burkett, who is at Newtown Firehouse, where Monsignor has just apparently comforted some of the victims, and it was quite emotional. N.J., what transpired?
Well, at this point, Sade, I want to set the scene for you guys and just show you where we are right now. The entrance to the school is where that police car is over there, and there's a media contingent that's gathered there. And then just steps away from the driveway that leads to the school is the Sandy Hook Volunteer Fire Department. This is, as you've said, I'm sure all afternoon, where families of the students have been brought to get the latest word from the investigators and from the first responders who have been here on the scene, obviously for the last several hours. With the families have been a number of clergymen who are here to try to counsel them, help them through these very difficult hours, and of course in the days and weeks that will follow. And we were very fortunate to have spoken to one of those people, one of the clergymen who was actually inside working with the families, and he got there, I guess, around 10:30 this morning, and had been there for several hours. George Weiss, who's a Monsignor from the St. Rose of Lima Roman Catholic Church here in Newtown. And I want to play some of the interview for you because it really does bring you into the room and takes you into the hearts, and I think and the feelings of the family members who have been assembled here for the last several hours. At 3 o'clock, they were told precisely what the situation was inside the school. He was there when that notification was made, and he had obviously a lot of difficult emotions he had to go through. And so I'm just going to play that interview for you now, and you get a sense of what it was like. And here's what he told us just a short time ago.
I think the reality is settling in that these 20 children are with the Lord now. And they've been taken from them too young and too innocent. And we just told a little boy about his sister now, and it's just to see his heart, you know, like, who am I going to play with, he said. I have nobody to play with now, so, excuse me. I'm so sorry. It just, and a lot of these people are from our parish, which makes it pretty heavy for me too. You know, I baptized some of these children, and they were getting ready for First Communion. But their parents are, I have to say that the love in that room, as broken as they are, is just phenomenal. And it's been a privilege for me to stand with them today and to talk with them, pray with them. Now, there's not many words you can say. There's no words you can really say, but just to be present to them. And, you know, many of them mentioned that's really what made a difference for them, just our presence with them today.
Some of these victims, some of these families were your parishioners?
Yeah, many of them actually were. Yeah, some of them are very active in our parish community. You know, the children, as I say, were getting ready to make their first Holy Communion.
I'm so sorry.
Well, it's just this community will never be the same. It's really broken.
So difficult, obviously, to be here, but he had to be here for the families. That's what he feels is his obligation, and it's what anybody would do. It's very, very difficult to be outside. The families are here. They're coming together, the community, and I guess it's a testament, really, to the emotions, the raw emotions that people have here, and the sense of community that people are struggling, but they're coming together. Back to you, Bill Sade.
MJ, thank you. This is just so emotional. You just see how deep that this pain goes. You know, the Monsignor saying that many of these kids were getting ready to make their first Holy Communion. They were a part of his parish. And, you know, having to answer to these kids, who do I play with now? You know, what do you say? You have to be so strong in this moment, trying to console these kids, but yet, you know, you are feeling the same pain too. It is just a horrific moment for all of the people there.
Here his job is to comfort his parishioners.
And he needs to be comforted as well.
He needs to be comforted. Earlier today, Diane Sawyer, who's going to anchor World News tonight from up in Connecticut at the scene of the shooting, she talked to one of the parents, and we want to play what that parent said to her earlier.
Did they give you any sense when you got there, when you got to the fire department area, what had happened? What did they tell you?
No, nobody is giving us, no officials are giving us any information. There's a parent I know who happened to be in the building at the time, and she's pretty broken up. She was in a meeting with the principal and some other people, and they heard shooting. They got up, they went out, and she had stayed in the conference room, and my understanding from her is the principal and other people got shot when they went out into the hallway, and she was the one who called 911.
So you talked to the person who called 911?
Yes, and she said that there was hundreds of shots, it sounded like.
Hundreds of shots?
That's what she said.
And were there families there who don't know where their children are?
Yes, there are still families here who do not know where their children are.
And were they giving them any information at all? Are there still
There's no information for those parents. They have the kids who were evacuated into the fire department house. They asked, as they've been taking attendance, they've been checking kids out to their parents. So some parents have secured their children and left with them, but there are still parents here who do not have their children and have no idea, and they're not being told anything.
What was your thought when you got this call? It is unimaginable. What was your thought?
I couldn't believe it. This is such a. We just moved here a year and a half ago from Providence, living in an urban area. We, thought we were coming to a much safer, secure place. Never would have thought anything like this would happen here. And it's a large town, but it's got a real small town family feel.
That was Diane Sawyer talking earlier to a parent, one of the parents, and of course she mentioned that some of the parents had not been told yet. That was earlier today. They have been told, according to the state police. They have all been notified, and of course the parents knew, they had to know when their kids didn't come out.
When they didn't come up and there was no information.
They had to know that.
Yeah, well, right now we are still awaiting a press conference by Governor Dan Malloy. That's expected to happen at around 6, but we are expected to hear from police shortly before then. We will be sure to carry that to you live. Right now we want to go to Jim Dolan. And Jim, I know earlier you were about a half a mile away from the firehouse. Where are you now? And set the scene for us.
Yeah, Diane, Sade, we're in this parking lot that's near the firehouse. Earlier in the day, many of the parents were parking here and then walking to the firehouse to get that news, either grim or tragic or good news, to be reunited with their child. We just want to point out that interview, that Diane Sawyer interview you played just a moment ago, was very real for so many parents here. They learned about this tragedy in increments. First, that there was a shooting, and then that there was a shooting at a school, and then that there was a shooting at their school. And so you can just imagine how the tension was racked up during the day for them. And for many of the parents, we've talked about this through the day, for many of the parents, they didn't learn the fate of their child until they got to that school. We have to say that a lot of parents were able to actually talk to their children after this, teachers providing cell phones and that sort of thing for the kids. But for many of them, they did not talk to their children until they got to that firehouse, and that was the way this day went for them. You can imagine the emotion, the range of emotion here today. Some finding their children, seeing them from a distance, running up to them, and then in some cases not seeing their children at all and getting the news about exactly what had happened. By this point in the day, all of the parents do know the fate of their children, and so still that enormous range of emotion going on now among the parents here tonight.
That's going to last for quite some time. Jim, let me ask you this. We heard from Diana Williams that they are going to have something at Rose Church. There's a candlelight vigil, a lot of events happening there. Have you spoken with any of the parents there? Do they plan to go?
The parents probably, by and large, will not go to these, but this is a way for the community, the rest of the community, to come together. The parents now obviously have to worry. The parents whose children survived have to worry about those children, have to deal with what exactly happened. You know, right next to the school, Sade, there is a daycare center. Now, the daycare center wasn't involved in this at all, but it's right next door, and nobody was hurt there at all. But still, those children were locked down, and their parents had to come and get them as well. Now, these are younger children, 3, 4, 5 years old. And we talked to a number of parents whose children were at that school. And one of the parents said, I'm not talking to my child about this. She's 4 years old. And, you know, it's hard to question that parent and maybe say that this should be dealt with on some level. But you can certainly understand the thinking of that parent not wanting to deal with it, not wanting their child to have to deal with exactly what happened and the repercussions of what happened. So that is all going on in homes throughout this area tonight. And the people who are maybe less affected but still very sad about what happened are coming together at various places to try to deal as a community with what happened.
You know as well as anyone, Jim, having raised 2 children, that at some point, no matter how old they are, how young they are, they know when something is affecting mom or dad. And those kids, even the young ones who are not being talked about this. And by the way, the child psychologists we talked to today, the crisis people, say do not tell a 3- and 4-year-old. But they know when something's wrong. They know that when the people turn off the TV, if some of them are watching TV right now, they know something's going on that is way beyond the state of normal.
Yeah, and the children here who were in this, we talked to 2 kids today, one of whom heard all of this going on. He must have been very close to it because he heard the gunshots and he heard the police running by his classroom. And so you can, they know something happened. They know it was awful. They know that they were affected by it for a short while and their parents picked them up. But again, these are grade school kids. They don't, it's hard for adults to wrap their heads around this. You can imagine what a child is going through at this point.
We are going to play a bit of a child on tape that we had. The witnesses here, Jim, as you know, we're not going to do it right now, but the witnesses, many of them at the beginning were all children, and there was a lot of discussion on Facebook and emails to me saying, why are you putting kids on? And we didn't like it, but they were the witnesses to this, and they were old enough to see the pain and the sorrow and the people around it. And Jim, if you can hear this, I'm going to play it for us now, and then let's talk about this afterwards, because the children became witnesses, just a horrible situation today in Connecticut.